let's talk about equipment breakdown exposures. So when you think about equipment breakdown, a lot of people automatically think this is only having something to do with manufacturing plants or big stamping facilities or industries that involve huge pieces of equipment. That's true. That's a big exposure for those industries. But equipment breakdown applies to every business that has property insurance. It just may not be as big as an exposure as a manufacturing plant. So consider this. Most property policies, if not all policies, will exclude claims, damage, loss arising out of steam boiler explosion. And you're saying to yourself, who has a steam boiler these days? I know, but steam boiler explosion, mechanical breakdown, or electrical arcing. So let's talk about each of those a little bit more. So the steam boiler explosion, not real common in most retail environments, office exposures, but it's very common in manufacturing plants. They have steam equipment that runs machinery, runs coolants, all sorts of different things. So if you have a steam boiler in there and the steam boiler either breaks down or, worst case scenario, explodes and demolishes the building, most property policies won't cover anything. The cost to rebuild the structure is not covered. If your steam boiler just simply breaks down and it didn't explode, but now you got to spend 50 grand to repair it, those repairs are not going to be covered by insurance. Let's take the second component of that, which is mechanical breakdown. This is something that's more common, I think. It involves any piece of machinery. Let's just consider an air conditioning unit. Over time, let's say that air conditioning unit has a piece that comes loose because it's getting old, and that piece dislodges and then falls into a larger piece of that piece of equipment, and then the machine seizes up. So there's an example of mechanical breakdown. Or compressors get rusty and fall off, or things like that. So mechanical breakdown to large pieces of equipment would not be covered either. Electrical arcing. So we're not talking about lightning. We're talking about the power company having different surges or different volts of electricity coming into your building, and then because of those variances, you have damage to your equipment. So if there's a power surge or electrical arcing that ruins all your computers and ruins your air conditioning and your furnace and all sorts of different things, then you're going to have to pay all those costs out of pocket. Electrical arcing is not covered by property insurance. So when you think about all these things, what are the exposures that you have? We don't have stamping equipment, okay? We do have some computers. Let's think about transformers and power panels. I think that's something we often take for granted. They put it in the building when they make the structure, and then we never think about it again. But even in this office building, there's a huge power panel in the back. A power surge from the power company could ruin that panel, and it would cost maybe $50,000 or $70,000 to replace it, not covered by insurance. Generators, we see more of these than ever. Big office buildings buying generators to support their facilities during the day. Those wouldn't be covered if they're equipment breakdown exposures. AC units, air conditioning units, like I mentioned. So we talked briefly about the cost of repairing those things, but we didn't talk yet about the business interruption component of that. And that's maybe a topic for another day entirely, but what we need to know about here is, what if you have a piece of machinery that breaks down and you cannot operate your business? Not only are you going to have to repair it, but you have all the lost profit and revenue that you could have earned if that piece of machinery was working. So these are the things to think about when we talk about equipment breakdown coverage. You got to ask yourself, is it covered by your policy? Odds are it's not, unless you asked for it specifically to be covered. And there's an endorsement that you must ask for by name for equipment breakdown coverage to apply. And that endorsement essentially says, we are taking away those exclusions and we will cover those three components of loss. So if you want to learn more about this, call me. My information is on the directory page of our website, and let's talk about it.